Okay, good people, it is WrstlXtra with your boy, yes, me, a Dazzle, and of course, the WrestleManiac himself, Mex. Bro, how are you doing? We are on episode 12. We're making moves, we're still moving, we're still going. Yep. How's life?
Yeah, life isn't too bad. I've got Instagram, got me in a chokehold right now. I'm off the platform. I haven't done anything wrong, people, don't worry. But we're still here giving you guys WrstlXtra. So yeah, you guys just keep my name alive in these streets. I'll be back soon.
Luckily for him, he has a good following and stuff on Twitter as well. I guess there are some positives to being on Twitter as well. Then I guess you know. But yeah, folks, you are joining us on WrestleMania YouTube channel and as well, obviously listening to us on AffinityExtra.com. Bro, let's get straight into we saw legendary Orton Kong. For those who don't know who Orton Kong is, she is also known as Kia Stevens, who is also an actress on the Netflix show Glow. So Glow is also a show which is about, it's a drama about female wrestlers in the wrestling game and their life around within and and stuff like that. So many of the ethnic not being able to really feel as though their characters mean much to the show itself. So they've spoken about how they're privileged to be in the position that they are, privileged to be part of the cast. Their fellow cast members and white counterparts, they have no issues with any of them. What their issue is the fact that they're on the show, but their characters seem to be a lot more watered down. There's less, there's less development of their characters, and they also always seem to find themselves in stereotypical storylines. So whether it be a racist storyline or other storylines involving black people where there's drugs or there's all this stuff going on, and they just feel as though they're not being heard. And in the statement that all the ladies have put out and put on their social medias, it's like a 4-page letter, and they've aired their grievances. One of the main things that they've pointed out as well, and this is the one thing that we want to talk about a little bit more right now, is the lack, or literally for them, there was no one on the writing team for Glow who is of any ethnicity or ethnic minority at all. So their issue is that the simple fact that there isn't one or isn't any at all means that their characters, their storylines and everything about them isn't being thought about. There's no awareness to it. There's no thought process into it. And I feel this isn't just an issue for this show, which is about wrestling. This is an issue with wrestling in general, especially the big companies that we know, WWE, now AEW or Elite Wrestling. Mex, what are your feelings of this type of thing in terms of a lack of representation, not now in the ring, but in the boardroom, on the creative team, in the back? How do you see all of this?
Yeah, I think it's an issue, especially in these places like the boardroom and so on and so forth within writing teams. We're often complaining about some of the storylines we get given out and just some of the things that aren't considered, especially around other cultures, maybe not even just black people, just other cultures in general. And if you had somebody sitting there that is fits that demographic, or ultimately ticks that box, then this is someone that can run it. You can run these ideas past and see, is this something worth doing? Is this something we need to kind of double check with someone if this is culturally appropriate, or how will we feel to take things from a different angle depending on, an involvement of a certain culture or not? Like, it just makes sense. Like, you guys, when you're interviewing for jobs and all of this kind of stuff, there's always the odd diversity box there that you need to tick, or whatever the case is. What is that really confirming? If anything, it's like, oh, they are an ethnic minority. Okay, maybe we don't hire them. It's like, why do we have that box if you're not actively searching? And yes, they still need to be the right candidate. It doesn't matter what their skin color is. But, you know, if you're having even just 8 board members and they're all men, there should surely be a woman amongst them, at least one. If you're then having 8 board members and, you know, 7 men and 1 woman, why is none of these people a person of color? There should probably be one amongst them. Like, it's not rocket science at all. And then when you have your black or colored staff, you know, wherever down as wrestlers or whatever the case is, this could be at least someone as a point of call that they have, that they can talk to, that can bring up wider issues, rather than maybe just suffering in silence and stuff like that. It's an issue. It is an issue. Even on, you know, we come all the way down to other kind of wrestling outlets, journalism and other things like that. We're all here, you know, we're all here doing our jobs, but how many of us actually get picked up and, you know, carried up to these top levels? So, yeah.
Right. I mean, you when you first started talking, you mentioned about it not just being a black thing as well, and, you know, with the cast members that have spoken, as I said, I'm sure it's about 6 of them. 3 of them are, 2 of them are African American, 1 of mixed heritage, 1 is Indian or Asian background, another 1 is of a Far East Asian background, and then you have 1 other who is of Latino background. So not like they're not ticking the box of diversity. It's there for us to see. But as you said, seeing it is not enough. You know, they even mentioned that same phrase, ticking the box, in their statement that they've made. And I feel as though, you know, we've had the whole thing with Black Lives Matter. We've had the whole thing in wrestling of speaking out, which is basically, I forget what the other one was with the film industry. I can't remember what that was called again. But, you know, we've had all of those issues of representation and, you know, whether it be a racial thing or a sex thing. All we seem to see is boxes being ticked. As long as we've got the numbers, we're nice, we're fine. As long as we've got the numbers, you know, when we want to make a fuss about how there's not enough black people in wrestling, everyone to tell us, oh, there's like about 11 guys on Raw and 2 of them are champions, and one of them's been a champion for however long, and blah blah blah. Like, numbers isn't enough. It's about the way that you portray us. It's about the way that you decide to use us. And unfortunately very differently to our white counterparts, who are basically the same people in the boardroom. So yeah, unless things change in the boardroom, it doesn't matter how many people you have in the ring or as your staff. You're not going to feel represented. You're not going to feel content. You're not going to feel appreciated in what you do. And, you know, whether that be female, whether that be person of color and things like that, it's just nothing's going to change. You know what I mean? And this is the biggest issue that we have. It's you know, we find ourselves constantly having to say these things over and over again because there's no change. And as I said, unless these things change in the boardroom, what are we going to have? You know what I mean? We can't tick boxes. We're going to have, you know, the stereotypical black characters, as we spoke about a few weeks ago, you know, just a whole lot of swag and dancing, and as the term happens quite often in wrestling, shocking and jiving. You're going to have the Chinese wrestlers who come out as ninjas. You know, we're still having that happening now. Like, you turn on WWE on a Monday, you've got a Japanese guy representing a ninja. He's never been that guy. That's not what he's about, but that's what he's been portrayed as. You know what I mean? You even had the big black man who was referred to as the big ninja. You know what I mean? And we're having all these stereotypical things as though we don't know what else to do with these people, and it's obvious that that's what's going on. But yet we do have, you know, guys like Jonathan Gresham, you know, guys like Jay Lethal as well, who are wrestlers that are just wrestlers. Like, there is nothing wrong with having a black wrestler who is just a good wrestler. You don't then have to throw you don't have to throw the sauce on them. You know what I mean? Let's just make them good wrestlers and give them their opportunities, because they are simply good entertainers, and that is it. It's crazy.
It's like, you can, at the same time, and this is it, they can either be themselves and be very good at what they do,
right?
Or you could give them a gimmick, but the gimmick doesn't have to be the stereotypical dancing.
Right.
Imagine, I don't know, a blackface, one of our wrestlers being the Monday Night Messiah, or someone else, you know, being some type of equivalent to some type of Bray Wyatt-esque cult leader. Like, there's other things we can do here, not just, you know, okay, he's black, he's an athlete, and yeah, he can move quick, and yeah, some dance moves on him. Like, it's, come on, like, it's 2020.
Right. But I mean, here's the other thing, and it slightly moves on to a bit of our next topic as well. So, Keir Stevens, who's also Awesome Kong, has also appeared on All Elite Wrestling, AEW. I think there's a small chance, I think I saw a post something just today or yesterday, there's a small chance she could reappear very soon. Now, in All Elite Wrestling, there is, you know, in terms of tick boxes, diversity. And at the same time as well, I feel as though with most of the wrestlers that they have of colour, they're not, you know, it's not necessarily stereotypical gimmicks.
No, yeah.
It's not all just stereotypical gimmicks, which is a good thing, which is nice.
Yeah.
Which is nice. But then there's still this kind of glass ceiling type of thing that's happening. As we've mentioned so many times with Scorpio Sky, for example, you know, you got so far and then boom, it was just thrown down, literally just thrown down again. But then obviously, again, it leads also to their representation with the women's division. It's been talked about so many times about how it's not the greatest, and you know, it needs help and stuff like that. We're still seeing a lot of holes in what they're doing. You've got Ivelisse and Diamante, who recently won the tag team tournament, but yet they've appeared maybe twice, 3 times on AEW Dark, once on Dynamite, done nothing, literally done nothing with them. And then we're having all these storylines that are just thrown here, there, and everywhere. We had Brandy Rhodes, and who is Cody's wife, also the CBO of the company. Very respectful, respectable black female, doing her thing. And then she was put with Ali. Ali is a white female, and you know, everything kind of happened out of nowhere, but it was working for me. You know, it had a substance. The way they kind of came together was something a little bit different. They weren't friends. They got a mutual agreement kind of thing going on, and as a tag team, they did quite well. But then out of nowhere, the storyline completely disappeared. Literally disappeared. There was no ending to it. There was no kind of fallout. Even if it was a short-term thing, there's a fallout, and then we've now seen Ali kind of just thrown back with, you know, the Butcher and the Blade, who she came into the company with. And then we're putting Brandy with Red Velvet, another black female. I have no problem necessarily with them two coming together.
Yeah.
You know, I have a feeling, you know, Brandy's had a say in that happening as well, because I've kind of seen their interaction on social media and stuff like that. But where did that come from?
They are very fond of just doing stuff like this, because even before, if you remember right back to the beginning, Ali wasn't even with Butcher and Blade. Then it was established that, you know, she was married to Blade, I believe. And then she got put, and then they got made, you know, Butcher, Blade, and a Bunny. Because to be honest, I don't think Butcher and Blade were there from the beginning anyway. So when they came in, that's when Bunny joined them, Ali joined them. Then obviously she had her on-screen fling, when we all now know she's married. She's having an on-screen fling with QT Marshall. And that's obviously where she got involved with Brandy. They've had a very good run on Dark and stuff like that.
It was very good.
And yeah, even when I saw it, I thought, oh, I remembered, you know, I need to watch Being the Elite. Maybe that's going to fill the gap for me.
Okay.
I still haven't watched Being the Elite, but I mean, I assume there's nothing there to show us why they've gone their separate ways and why now Red Velvet's in the picture. And like I say, this has happened with this, the Nightmare Collective, were they called? The original group that Brandy tried to put together, that disappeared into nothingness. I'm guessing obviously Brandy's at the head of the table, so to speak. So I'm guessing these are very much her calls, her moves. I think, if anything, she has this kind of power stroke. Just focus on that woman's division. Like, that is, you mentioned Evilise and Diamante before that. The immediate need. This is the immediate thing that's gonna really say if you guys second year is gonna be, you know, as good as the first and stuff like that. That's what needs work.
Here's a small correction. So everyone believes that Brandy has this power in terms of what happens in the women's division.
Oh, I know she doesn't. It's Kenny, innit?
Yeah, of course. But then I feel as though, okay, I'm sure she has, you know, it's not a thing where she has no power whatsoever. Of course, there's going to be a level of, you know, she has her say in what she's doing. As we know, apparently, everyone has say in what they do on AEW because, you know, everyone's free to do what the hell they want. Apparently. But I don't believe it's the case. But anyway, or maybe it is the case, and this is why we're getting all this madness that we're getting, because I'm just like, this was something that I felt was going to happen at some point with AEW anyway. This freeness was going to cause some issues in terms of, you know, consistency, longevity, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, this is the place that we find ourselves in, with all these little potholes and things not necessarily carrying on and stuff like that. And we can blame, you know, at the moment, I guess we can maybe blame COVID because, you know, certain people are not always available, certain people disappear because they have to isolate, and, you know, we've seen that happen and whatnot. But for me, there's still a level, and, you know, we saw it happen earlier with the Nightmare Collective. You know, it's not, I mean, I could be completely wrong, but it's not rocket science. It's not rocket science to try and hold on to a storyline. And if you're going to end it because it didn't work out, sometimes it just doesn't work out, doesn't get across with the fans, and that's fine. But give us a reason, or find a reason why it's now ended. That's it. Or it's been moved on to something else. That is it, just fill the gap. And I don't understand why we've gone from one thing with nothingness and then we're at another thing just like that, especially when the one thing was only like about a week, 2 weeks ago. It's not like someone disappeared for 4 months and then they've come back. That you can deal with, but this is just a madness.
I'll say this again, if this was WWE, hands would be up in the air, people would be going crazy, babies would be crying, like, WWE gets shot down for stuff like this.
Here's the crazy thing, bro. So the post that I actually saw this on, I can't remember who posted it, but in the comment section, someone said the same thing I've just said now about the potholes and whatnot, and AEW are also, you know, for victim of it as well. Bro, the amount of defense for AEW was crazy.
Of course.
I think I was the only person that liked that person's comment. And then the other person who was in defense, I think got like about like 20 likes or something. I'm like, really? They said something about, oh, this ain't Raw, bro. What? What?
It is what it is.
Oh, man. But yeah, we could sit here and talk about that for ages. But moving on to Raw, to WWE specifically, actually, we saw Sasha Banks came in at number 5 on the annual PWI Women's 100. It is one, or is it 200? 200, I believe it is. Number 5. Yeah. Before her, there was Bayley came at number 1. I'm sure there was very little argument for that. Bayley has been phenomenal alongside Sasha Banks in the last, basically throughout 2020. Sasha kind of was alongside her for quite a bit of that, and we saw, them on that great run that they had, and it's still kind of continuing now. But then we had, I believe it was Becky Lynch at number 2, and Asuka at number 3, with Charlotte at number 4, Sasha at number 5. I will always say this because I don't see the criteria as an issue. I love the criteria that they use when it comes to PWI and determine, who should be where and whatnot. I sometimes feel though as if favoritism comes in there somewhere, because Sasha at number 5. Tell me your thoughts before I kind of go crazy, because I'm like.
So yeah, when I saw the list and I saw Sasha at 5, especially obviously we know how involved she's been in with Bayley, who was at 1. I was thinking, what's going on here, mate? Like, why it says 3 people in between? Then I remembered 2 things. The first thing, Bayley, SmackDown Women's Champion, obviously for the best part of the year now. Yeah, over a year.
Over a year, yeah.
Becky was Raw Women's Champion for over a year until she dropped the belt to Asuka at Money in the Bank, and then went on her leave.
Yep.
Asuka, Raw Women's Champion currently, I guess. From about earlier this year, held the tag team belts with Kairi saying Kabuki Warrior.
Correct.
So I thought, okay, and obviously she's just a terrific wrestler.
Of course.
Charlotte Flair, NXT Women's Championship she picked up, held it for a couple of months, dropped it. So I thought the first thing is that Sasha Banks hasn't held a top title, I guess, in that aspect over the last
for sure.
So that's got to probably play into it. Secondly, I remember that you told me, especially when I was kind of fuming when Moxley topped the men's one, about the date range of when they come.
Right.
So I thought, again, that might be something that doesn't work in Sasha's favor.
For sure.
But it's kind of like a good problem to have at the same time. Like, going on just the trajectory of how this story has been going, depending when their cut-off points are, etc. There is no way Sasha can't be top 3 next year, if not number 1.
Right.
Like, there is just no way. But
here comes the problem. So as I said, criteria is fine. The time scale is really what kind of creates the problem for Sasha. It is from, I believe, October round to September. So it's October 2019 and it would have been up until September 2020. Obviously, in that time, for a while, Sasha wasn't necessarily doing much. She was active, but wasn't doing much. As you said, she never held a title. When she did, she held it and couldn't defend it. But couldn't defend it. Lost it to Asuka. That's probably why Asuka's above her. As you said, Asuka's also won Money in the Bank and was given the Raw Championship and was also tag team champion, which for a time as well kind of made that tag team championship mean a little bit more than, for a good time as well, which was great. But then, okay, you've got Charlotte, who did for a time, but I think not in the best way. Elevated the NXT championship for a little bit. Again, not in the best way, but it was WrestleMania as well and all that kind of stuff. She won at WrestleMania. That puts her up there. Becky Lynch is Becky Lynch. The influence that she has on the scene, and then again, like you said, that whole time she was Raw champion. But then Money in the Bank was when? February, correct?
No, April, I think.
Okay.
After May, or maybe May.
So halfway, or not even halfway, into this time scale, she's been inactive.
Yeah.
All the other stuff before that, for me, doesn't necessarily push her to number 2. Maybe above Sasha still, but number 2.
Yeah.
We're fighting here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not too sure.
I mean, I just remembered as you were saying that Charlotte, if I'm correct, won the Women's Royal Rumble.
Yes, she did. Of course she did.
However, I do think in that time span that we're looking at, apart from the Royal Rumble win and the NXT Championship win,
SmackDown. I'm sure there was a mention of having the SmackDown Championship at one point.
During that run, okay, maybe. I don't know, man. I feel like at the same time, like I'm saying, it's very hard to argue, but it's a win for WWE. Put it that way.
Of course, for sure.
But I find it, I'm thinking, Sasha should be higher, but it's like we can go back and forth on this debate on who should drop down and who shouldn't.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, like I say, with the trajectory of the story, Sasha looking like she will come out on top as Women's Champion, SmackDown Women's Champion at some point, there is no way that she can't be top 3 in this list next year.
I would find it an absolute travesty. Yeah. I'll use that word.
100%.
Travesty.
Yeah.
If she's not in that top 3, at least. But here's the scary thing. I think that will depend on, and I'm sure she will, but it will depend on whether she beats Bayley or not.
Yeah, 100%. That's what it depends on. 100%.
It will depend on that, and then how long that run is as well.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, with it being the SmackDown Women's Championship and not the Raw one, which she's won like 5 times, but has never been able to actually defend, which is
for whatever reason
absolute madness.
Yeah.
But hopefully they'll use that in some kind of storyline at some point in some big way. I thought it was going to be the last time, but hey.
Yeah. So
hopefully with that SmackDown Women's Championship, they'll put her on a decent run, and yeah, we'll see her, in the top 3. But it's a shame because with her having both the Raw and the Tag Team Championship as well, that wasn't enough. And with the way she elevated the scene, wrestling in general, I don't. Because even the influence you have on the whole wrestling scene plays its part. The matches that you have and all that kind of thing. So I'm still, even though we have a lack of championship wins, I'm still with all the other criteria. I'm still still number 5.
She's the demo goddess. They need to stop playing her around, man.
For sure. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But as you said, it's a good problem for WWE specifically. I think it's great that we can even have the debate, especially when it comes to women's wrestling as well. And to have Sasha and Asuka in that debate, because they've kind of, we feel quite a lot of the time that both ladies, not simply because they are of colour, but simply because we feel as if both ladies have been kind of forgotten about or pushed to a side by WWE quite often. So it's nice for them to be in that top 5 and be recognised enough, obviously, to be up there. To be honest, you can't have a list like that and not have them, those ladies up right up the top like that. Yeah. So it's our time now to move on to our next segment. I'll be speaking to British wrestler, the O.J.M.O, about a number of things about his life and speaking out, Black Lives Matter, and the unfortunate passing of Ryan Smile, who passed away just last week, and surrounding effects of mental health that kind of contributed to his passing. So let's move on to that, and we'll come back to you in a little while. Okay, guys, so you are locked into WrstlXtra. We are on, this is episode number 12. It's crazy, it's mad. Obviously, it's that part of the show where I speak to a black British wrestler, seeing as it is October, meaning in the UK it is Black History Month. And you know, as always, I like to make sure I shine the spotlight on our stars and what is going on in the UK as well for everyone else to see, not just us in the UK. We've got loads of people to share ourselves with as well. So today, I'm speaking to a guy who I've been speaking about for ages, but never spoken to. So it is an honor and a privilege to speak to the O.J.M.O, also known as Michael Oku. Bro, how is your day going? How's things? How are you doing?
Doing okay. Today's going all right. I'm gonna go for food soon, trying to get some.
Nice.
While there's still a chance of restaurants being open in London, I'm trying to get my fix in with like the most ugly, dirty food possible. So hopefully I can do that later on today.
Big burgers, a lot of chicken wings, onion rings, all of that. Absolutely. Yeah, man. Let's go. Brilliant. Your 2019 was basically phenomenal. It was great. So many highlights, so many things going on. Go through for me your probably some of your favorite parts of 2019.
So if I was to talk about my 2019, I feel like I should talk about just the end of 2018 and how it ended. It ended with September, I debuted for RevPro. And that was at York Hall for their TV tapings against the Great O'Khan, who's getting a lot of talk right now. Then also in that month, I wrestled in the pre-show for Progress at Wembley. And so those two things happening within the same month. Then it ended with me having a pre-show match at Unboxing. And also I won my first championship. So all these things happened at the very last few months of the year. And for me to have just started wrestling the year prior, I was like, this is the best year I could have ever had.
Right.
I couldn't have asked for anything more. I think I even put a tweet saying, as far as I'm concerned, I won 2018. But there's always that part of me that's like, okay, well, I want more. What's next? Even when I would get those positions, like if I'm in the pre-show, I'm like, oh man, I definitely feel like I could have been on the main show. Right. It's just my mentality of always thinking that I can do more or I can be in better position. So my 2019, especially with being in a pre-show of Unboxing, was like, I'm going to make sure that in this next year, something has gone wrong if I'm not in a better position than pre-show again. Right. Obviously, it ends with me having a world title match at Unboxing. So when you think about it, I couldn't have done anything better. And then the Pac match came, which was the start of my June. And That June, I'd say, was the highlight of the year because I had a lot of matches that happened in June. That was the same month that I wrestled Shingo. That was the same month that I think I wrestled in a death match for the first time in my life. But those two matches, but I'll say those two matches with Pac and Shingo are such big matches for me, especially as more time goes on. That like it's crazy to think that it was within a few weeks of each other. But I was just getting all these opportunities. I felt like it was a sink or swim opportunity because I didn't know whether I deserved to be, in the ring, if I was good enough to be in the ring with these people. So I had to find out by doing it and by being in the ring with them myself. And, if I was to judge, I feel like I held my own.
Talk to me actually also about the other thing, the big major thing for me that happened for you when you teamed with Jushin from the Liga, which was his last show, his last match in the UK, and it was with you. How?
Yeah. I'm going to start to sound like a prick when I say that I'm starting to forget some of the stuff that happened that year. But that's something that you just can't gloss over because, again, it's back to like, I'm asking myself, why me? Like, what have I actually done to have that accolade, that honor? Right. The Liga. And then you go through so many things of like how much you've watched of him, what he means to wrestling, who he's wrestled. It's just like, oh my gosh, he's been in the ring with this guy for these many generations. And then you got like I guess it would have been earlier this year. He was announced for the WWE Hall of Fame.
Right.
And it's just like, and then I'm the guy that's getting the honor of teaming with him in his last match in the UK. And it's just, yeah, like that was like a moment. Like if I was to like compare it to anything else that's happened in wrestling, it would kind of be like Hogan and Rock when that match happened. And just the feeling, there was the moment when like Hogan's posing after the match and Hogan's raising his hand out or back on the stage, and you just see the Rock's face. It's just like, it's like he can't believe what's going on.
Right.
And that was just me.
Yeah,
just
like, of course.
Yeah, we had some photos taken before we went out for the match. I was trying to hold in my tears because I was just like, I can't.
For sure.
It was not lost on me. The magnitude of having to being able to team with him in the last match.
Amazing. So as we said, you know, those all of those things happened in 2019. I'm sure you were ready to then take 2020 by the horns and say, you know, this is going to be even better than 2019. And then obviously we went into this whole lockdown, Corona, COVID, whatever you want to call it, the madness. How did that change?
That's the best phrase for it.
How did that change the trajectory of 2020? Because obviously we had the first few months, you know, things were happening. Then boom, it all happened. How did that affect your outlook on what you were about to go into?
It's like you said, man. 2019, that was like me saying I want to have a better year than I did in 2018. And I feel like I did everything in my power to be one of the most talked about wrestlers, at least in the country. And then my thought as the year was coming to an end was, okay, but I'm gonna do, I don't know how, but I'm gonna make sure that 2020 is even bigger than that. And if you actually look at what happened, you know, everything was on its way to happen because I won the British Cruiserweight Championship. Got a call. And you know, and that's probably one of my favorite matches that I've ever had. And you just kind of like put together a string of like what could have been in the works for later on in the year. For sure. You know, I'll let rumors continue to spread on that and like what would have happened or what would have happened. But like, you know, I just had everything in place to have an even better year, to go to more places, progress. I was going to be there in Florida with progress.
Yeah, of course.
So that would have been like a huge stage, and just another opportunity for people to see me up close. So it's just, it was so many wheels were put in motion already in February after winning the title. And then March came along and I was already getting stuff. RevPro were going to do a lot more dates, a lot more touring, as well as progress. I feel like I was just going to become like a regular with RevPro and progress. I know I looked at my calendar, which I still haven't deleted the dates that I got given in my calendar. But like on the progress and RevPro dates alone, I was a very, very busy person. I think they were going to just run a lot of shows. So it would have been tough to squeeze in other promotions into that. But then here we are, like, you know, boom. You didn't want to believe it.
Nah.
The first cancelled booking for me was OTT again, which is again like, if those are my three promotions, those are like the three biggest promotions on the scene at the moment, and I was just going to become a regular for all three. That I couldn't have watched for anything more, and then that stadium show got cancelled. Oh man, okay, you still want to believe. You don't believe the severity of this crazy thing that's happened, right? That none of us have been through. So I was like, okay, well maybe, okay, that's just Ireland. That's just their rules. That they don't want to do the show just to be, but there'll still be shows happening in the UK. I think my last official show was the Fight Club show. Yep. People were already talking at the time. Yeah. Everybody was already feeling like this is a real thing. There's virus. Yeah. And maybe we shouldn't have been at the show. Right. I remember I was there as well. Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's just like I feel like we all dodged a bullet because I don't know if anybody got like reported with the disease, but like, yeah, that was a close call in terms of how close we were to lockdown. And then you know, I guess here we are to this day of like months and months without like regular wrestling.
I mean, yeah, that Fight Club show, I believe it literally was the day before lockdown was either announced or started. I'm sure that was the last event in the UK.
as well. So that I remember very, very well. It was just so weird to be there, and probably hearing the whispers of should we be here and stuff like that, and it was very, very weird. Moving on from that, and as well, so not long after that, I guess probably the most unfortunate thing of this year within wrestling was the whole speaking out movement. I try to not talk about it, but it's unavoidable, and it affected UK wrestling. In a way, for me, it kind of came. There's no good time, but it came at a good time in the sense that there was no wrestling happening. There was time for people to sit back and kind of evaluate and stuff like that. For you being, a part of the scene itself, how did that affect? How did that affect you, like directly? How did that affect yourself?
For myself, again, I wasn't involved in any of the, like, I wasn't accused, or I wasn't, a victim. Mm-hmm. So kind of being a third party to the whole situation, it was such a dark stain in terms of like what I'm doing, because it's a thing that you want to be proud of. It's a thing that you want to say that, yeah, I'm a wrestler, and like it's a cool thing to say, which it became a cool thing to say.
Right,
I feel like
right.
In recent times, again, it's a thing that you want your parents to be proud if you do. You want your family to be proud if you're doing. So for it to become a thing where now there's these stories coming out of people abusing their power, abusing trust, taking advantage of people, was a real tough pill to swallow. I think the bit in terms of like honesty that some wrestlers either have or haven't had is, which I was trying to be vocal about, was that there were some of these stories that, not that we knew detail of, but we kind of, that there's some people that wrestlers kind of knew that some foul play was going on, so to speak. Wasn't that we were letting it happen, but we had heard about it. For me, I remember what shocked me about the whole movement, was the volume. I thought, okay, there's this thing that's happened here, there's this thing that's happened here. And in a way, you can make the argument, not that it's good, but you can make the argument that this is a thing that will happen. Unfortunately, it can happen in other workplaces, and it's happening here, which is the unfortunate thing. But it's only a few. But when it became so many, it was like, what's the pattern here? Can we figure out the pattern here, and can we stop this from happening? Because let's just focus back onto the wrestling and remind everybody from top to bottom that we're here to just be wrestlers, put on good wrestling shows. But we need to make sure first that people are safe.
Yeah, of course. And we know that you know of people close to you that have been victims, even, of one person who you close to who was accused as well. And you also, at a point, put on the new team for, was it Progress, going forward. Obviously, you then had to, you had to decline the position for your own reasons. But in terms of being part of the change, are you still trying to actively seek some level of a position or something like that in order to create this change? When we all kind of come back, when the UK scene is up and running again, are you expecting or pushing yourself forward to be part of that change for both the speaking out movement, and of course, we also had the Black Lives Matter movement, which also then impacted the way UK wrestling was being perceived or how it was being run and stuff like that?
So yeah, when I joined the team, again, everything was very unofficial in terms of like job titles or exactly what I'd be doing. But my thought process was, and I was approached to do it. I didn't put myself forward to do it. I was asked to. It was in a combination of those two things. It was like, oh, okay, so wrestlers within the industry, male and female, already see me as someone they could go to. So I guess I already have a responsibility based off that. And then it was the in terms of representation, I thought that I had a voice that may be of value. So to combine those two things, I believed that there was something I could do to help. So in terms of like an official position, maybe I won't have an official position. I'm not actively seeking one right now.
Right.
But I would still like to be seen as someone that could be spoken to about things. I still like to think that I'm approachable to these things, regardless of things that have happened, or regardless of events. Because which has been tough, because there was a time where I just kind of like shut things out after like stepping away from the role.
Yeah, of course.
I just kind of shut people away, and it was just kind of like tough to like just tough to cope with everything and a lot of things that were coming my way. So but at the same time, like, there were still people who were talking to me, there were still people who were reaching out, and I didn't get to everyone. I just couldn't as well, because I just switched off a lot of apps. I switched off a lot of social media apps
for sure.
Notifications, so I didn't even know a lot of messages were coming through. But still, like, as I'm like using social media a little bit more now, I'm just hoping that like people know that I'm still a person that wants to help, and I feel like I'm able to. And even if it's nothing official, if you want someone to talk to, I feel like I'm still able to do that, if that makes sense.
Right. So we know a lot of the time when things like this happen, and I guess I'm being a little more specific now on like Black Lives Matter and you know, the awareness of representation now, especially in the UK. Sometimes we see certain things will happen. We've got, you know, all this awareness going on for a month or two, and then after a while it kind of dies down again. And we've kind of seen that with Black Lives Matter and stuff. And we did see, you know, a lot of promotions making statements about what they're going to do, and they're going to do this better and going to do that better. Moving on months later, we still, unfortunately for us, have no wrestling in the UK. Do you still see the possibility of that change happening as soon as, whenever that would be, we get back to having shows and being able to put on shows more regularly?
It depends what that change looks like, you know. This is such a difficult subject to broach in terms of well, what do promotions need to do? You know what? Actually, what's interesting? I read an Instagram post from Kia Stevens from Karma, Wilson Kong, and she was talking about Glow and how she believed that the representation of Black characters was done poorly, right? Which is interesting, because if you actually look at the cast, there are a few Black characters in the cast. Like in terms of, if you just look at numbers, it's nothing that people would really complain about. But what her point was that the storylines weren't as fleshed out, right, as the white characters, right? Even if it's just for one episode where they could just focus on a Black character, that she just didn't feel that was happening, and it was very two-dimensional, the character personality traits and the arcs. So I feel like if there's anything that should be done, and again, this is my opinion, it shouldn't, in my opinion, I just feel like it shouldn't just be, all right, let's find anybody that is Black and just put them on the shows. Right. They still need to be good wrestlers, for sure, at the end of the day, for sure. And you know, and of course we've got loads of talented Black wrestlers here, but don't just be like, oh my god, the thing to fix this is to just if I just find whoever from wherever and just even if they've had 2 matches, let me just put them on because they are Black, because then you're doing the exact wrong thing. It's kind of tokenism, if that's a phrase. Of course. Just like, all right, you're just doing it just to keep people quiet, to make people happy. So what I would prefer is if, when you use a Black talent, they are given the same opportunities to get over, the same opportunities to have good matches as their white counterparts. Because then, if that happens, in my opinion, they'll thrive the way they need to, and that will be a sink or swim situation. I feel fortunate enough that for enough promotions, or at least enough prominent promotions, I've been given the opportunities to shine. I'd say obviously that's glaringly obvious with Rev Pro. I'd say so for Progress. I've heard people say, "Oh man, I think they compare my run in Progress with Rev Pro," but and whatever you want to say in terms of how I'm booked, I definitely was being booked in Progress with some substance. There was something going on there. It wasn't just like, here is someone to do one thing or another. So I'd like that to happen for more black wrestlers. That's literally it. Because then I'd also like it'd be cool if on these grand stages there could be other black wrestlers with me on that stage, and then I could be wrestling under the black wrestler. Because if I was to put on my finger or count on I think I probably can count on one hand the amount of black wrestlers I've actually wrestled in a singles match.
Wow.
And Roy Johnson Omari. I'm probably missing. Maybe I'm missing someone out. Morgan Black. I'm trying my best here. I'm literally trying to see if I can get to the second hand, but I haven't even completed the first hand.
Yeah.
But like in singles matches,
that's true.
I haven't, wrestled other black wrestlers.
Wow.
And there's so many more talented people.
So many more. Yeah.
So I want that to be a thing where like, let's all bring each other up and let's give these people the opportunities. So it's like, all right, if you give them the opportunity and they fail, they don't get over, if they're not good, then okay, you use someone else.
That's on them, of course.
But it should just be that the best wrestlers are on the shows to produce the best wrestling. And if all things are equal, in my opinion, there'd probably be more black wrestlers.
Right. Let's move on just a little bit, and unfortunately, still kind of on a bit of a sad note. We lost Ryan Smile just last week. And it's been well documented that it was connected to mental health. Now we are both young. Well, I'm kind of still young, black men, and we know that within the UK, young black men and mental health unfortunately go hand in hand, but also at the same time are it's very much a very quiet subject. In the world of wrestling, how different is it? Is it worse? Is it better in any way? How do you find that in your environment in pro wrestling?
I think, well, in terms of the whole the mental health issue in the UK. I mean, I think I made a very brief thing on my post about Ryan, and it's about the stigma that surrounds the mental health. There's a stigma around mental health in general, but there's a hell of a stigma around mental health in men, and then an even greater stigma around black men. Right. Where that comes from, is it because our upbringing, we're just like our surroundings, we're kind of told to like bottle things up to show strength at every turn of the corner, that like we don't show our real emotions, we don't open up enough as we should. I know that's the case for myself. I've definitely been called like cold sometimes, like just because there are some things that maybe I should show emotion for that I'm not. Right. And it kind of just like, I'm trying to unlearn that. I feel like it's a thing that we're trying to unlearn as a community, that like it's cool to show emotions, you know. It's cool to not always be stunting on like how good your life is, whether it's, even if it's not. I think in wrestling, it's a kind of just a similar thing, in terms of like it, just like not feeling the ability to say, oh man, this is really tough for me right now, I'm having a bad day. It just leaks over in terms of trying to act as strong and as confident as possible, even if you're not. It's hard to, again, even putting that post about Ryan was a bit weird for me, because I didn't want it to be like, I just wanted to make it clear that I didn't even really know the guy, but it really did affect me. I think it affected so many people who weren't even close to him. It affected me just because of like, I just feel like it's clear that social media was a benefiting factor to his mental health decline. It happened during his career. I don't even have to like look it up. I remember when he put the tweet out in 2018 saying that he quit because of what someone said at York Hall.
Wow.
And I remember the responses because someone told him to jump off a bridge at York Hall. And so that's why he was like, I'm done. And he didn't wrestle until earlier this year.
Right.
And I remember the comments around it. Again, this is a guy I don't really know well, but all I could see was people saying either being happy he's gone, and the other thing being that he needs to toughen up. Being like, I'm sorry. Yeah, and this maybe is where wrestling comes in. It's like, if you're a wrestler, you should be able to deal with stuff like that. I'm sorry, but maybe wrestling isn't for you.
Wow.
I just feel like being a wrestler just shouldn't give like carte blanche for people to say whatever they want, and people not to expect us to be affected by them saying whatever they want. And I wanted like, I tried to like, I didn't do research, but like I just tried to ask people around me of like, what did he actually do? And did it like, not that it's ever warranted, and that's I guess the point. It's like, what did he actually do to warrant such a level of hate?
Right.
And that is it. Like there is nothing that he did, in my opinion, that warranted people telling him to do stuff like that. And again, like these few months, myself, I've received like horrible messages, private messages, and public ones that I try my best not to look at. You know, I deleted my Twitter app. It's been deleted for months and months and months, literally since June. So just to stop myself from looking at some of the horrible stuff people were saying. It's so easy to just kind of like look at all that negativity and then believe it, think that you deserve it, and then it just creates self-hate. The tough thing about the Ryan thing, again, when in terms of me writing it, was I was kind of annoyed at myself because I feel like I wouldn't have written anything nice about him if he was still alive publicly. We saw a lot of wrestlers outpour and talk about good memories and nice things that they said about him, but it was only until he passed,
right?
Which is just awful. And the reason is because we're like, because we know the fans generally, the general consensus amongst the fans is that he is not to be liked,
right?
So we're gonna keep quiet. I remember he put an apology out when he came back in March. He put an apology out on a new Twitter account. I know for a fact it got a low number of likes. And it's because wrestlers were afraid to click like on someone apologizing, owning, showing accountability, and our fear of how we come across was like, I'm not going to click like on that.
Right.
And so it feels like some kind of war zone that's been created because of social media, where we're not allowed to accept apologies. We're not allowed to hear people out. We can only go for people, and we can only go for people and gun after them. And the horrible thing is that I don't know if there's signs of it changing.
Right. Right.
I don't want it to be like, I hope this is an example for people to not do this anymore, but it should be. But from what I'm seeing, it's not an example that people are going to change. And that's the sad thing about the whole situation. That a man has a kid doesn't have his dad anymore. 2-year-old kid doesn't have his dad anymore.
Right.
And what are we? And people did not. The tough pill for people to swallow is that some of them contributed to that. And that's if we're being real. That's the situation.
That's the reality. With all of that said, and going back to it being in the world of wrestling, for me at one point, Ryan Smile was literally the only black wrestler that I knew of in the UK. Again, you did say that you didn't know him personally, so I'm sure this will be an assumption. But do you feel as though him being one of very few for a very long time as a black wrestler in the UK also then had an effect when he's getting, you know, this negative response, or him feeling as if he can relate to anyone, be able to talk to anyone? Do you feel that could have had some level of effect as well?
On myself?
Or on him, or and for yourself as well?
It's possible that like he might not have. It's possible, again, like this is me trying to now think how he was thinking, and I just couldn't.
Of course,
for sure,
of course.
But I can imagine that there might have been times where he felt like he was alone. I can imagine that there'd be times that he felt like, I mean, or clearly he didn't feel that he was welcome.
Right.
And there was nothing, you know, especially in 2018, he felt that he had to leave because there was just no sign of anything being different. And there are times, you know, if I'm being honest, that you think, man, they're really going after this one black guy with a lot of vitriol. And I want to believe that it'd be the same if it was somebody else, but it's just like, where is this strong amount of hate coming from for this one guy, for the thing he did? And is there no coming back from it? Like, there's no seeking for forgiveness? A thing that I wanted to put in, again, this is just a thing that, like, I was trying to make sure that the message I put wasn't angry, because I was angry. I think I was more angry than sad about the whole thing.
Right.
Back to like me thinking that he deserved the hate that he was getting. I was at the TNT show the next day that I saw him, and we were supposed to wrestle each other from what I've been told by everybody, which I was excited for. And he couldn't make it because the day before he'd injured his shoulder, which people didn't believe, even though I saw it with my own eyes. Like,
of course.
And there's video footage, like it can be like dug up. And I'll never forget, like, I was coming out for my match, but like I wasn't coming out. I was like waiting just behind the curtain, and it got announced on the microphone that he's not able to make the tournament due to injury. And they said it on the microphone, due to injury, Ryan Smart won't be able to compete. The pop that crowd had, like, it was a loud cheer for a man getting hurt. And I was just like, wow. Everybody needs to look at themselves in the mirror. Like, at that point, I was like, you all need to look at yourselves in the mirror. And of course, like, I'm sure, like, that day of Twitter when that was going around circulating, even more hate, or people were finding it funny. And it's just like, people just don't want to believe that they are contributing to it by trying to find a funny joke to make or a funny meme to make online. But all it takes is for him to see one, and it can ruin ruin everything, you know? It can ruin everything.
Wow. It's really sad to believe that could happen. And of course, it's led us to, you know, someone feeling as if their life was not worth living, and everything that he had, and the responsibilities in terms of, you know, having a partner, having a 2-year-old son, you know, just wasn't, even that still wasn't enough for him to fight for, or to, you know, try to live for, which is really sad. Unfortunately, also, we've kind of come towards the end of our time. I know you're not as active as you said on social media, but tell us where we can find you and how to get in contact with the O.J.M.O.
Yeah, go to the ojmo.com. That's my website. I sell my t-shirts. I've got pin badges, prints on there. You can also hook onto that website through my Instagram, which is at the O.J.M.O. It's at the O.J.M.O. pretty much on all social media platforms. I'm most active currently on Instagram. So if you want to catch me there, that's probably the best place to be catching me. But don't unfollow me on Twitter. I still want the number to be higher. So, who knows? I might start tweeting regularly. Who knows? But yeah, at the O.J.M.O. on Facebook as well. Any social media platform. If you put the O.J.M.O., I should come up. But yeah, support your boy.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much for joining me, giving me your time. People, don't forget, follow the O.J.M.O. Obviously, you continue to listen and watch WrstlXtra on the WrestleMania UK YouTube channel. You can watch and you can listen to us on AffinityExtra.com on a Thursday at 12 noon UK time. That is very early in US time, sorry, but it does repeat as well later on in the day. Michael, thank you very, very much for joining me, and I will speak to you very, very soon.
Okay, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem, bro.
Okay, guys, we are back. You are listening to WrstlXtra on AffinityExtra.com and watching on the WrestleMania UK YouTube channel. Let us get into our stars of the week straight away. And this week, I'm feeling good, because I'm ready. I'm ready. I almost felt, because we've spoken a lot about ladies at the start of the show, I almost feel as if I should choose a lady. But you know what? I'm sticking to my guns. I'm holding on to this one, and I'm going for it. But I'm going to let Becky go first.
Okay. Cool. All right, then. So my pick for start of the week is Jordynne Omogbehin. I think that's how you say his surname.
Something like that.
Raw Underground looks like it's done.
I believe it has been. I think it's been announced that it's done well on the internet at least.
Yeah, it looks like they've scrapped it. The likes of Arturo, Ruiz, Dabakato were all drafted over to Raw.
Yeah.
Jordynne wasn't mentioned in the draft, but we saw him appear on this past Monday's show as like this massive heater for AJ Styles.
He's so big.
Absolutely great visual. They couldn't have picked a shorter guy to put him next to. And you know what? He just carries himself like a menace. Like the real kind of silent killer vibe. Like
Right. Exactly.
I don't need to be a loudmouth, on smoke kind of guy, but if you cross me, like it's a problem. He really knows how to portray that. I still have no real knowledge of his ability within the ring. And if we will one day, see that maybe within this run with AJ Styles, I guess it wasn't even really made clear what he is doing with AJ Styles.
Right.
But just the segment, what he gave us on Monday, the referee telling him to get out the ring, just looking at you like, are you gonna make me or like it was absolutely so well executed. I remember part of the match where Matt Riddle got out the ring, he just formed a fist in front of Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle jumped back in the ring, got Styles clashed. AJ won the match. Like, I think there's a lot of interesting things they could do with him, especially with AJ as a mouthpiece as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. A bit of the old Shawn Michaels Diesel possible partnership that can come from it. So I think it's good. Like I say, he impressed me. I think I mentioned him before. He impressed me with his chemistry with Shane McMahon on Raw Underground. So I'm looking forward to what he could do on the main roster now.
Yeah, man. I think as you said, that whole kind of silent killer. No smoke, he's just there. I'm just standing here, and you can see what I'm here with. You know what I mean? I don't need to say nothing. I don't need to move. I don't need to say nothing at all. I'm just standing here. Yeah. That is enough.
When he finally got out the ring, I actually had to double check he was out the ring because his head was still at like the top rope level. Like, I couldn't believe how big this guy was.
I believe he's 7'4".
Nice, madness.
I believe he's 7'4", which is just ridiculous.
Yeah. And
as you said about his whole wrestling ability, it is very basic. He hasn't got any kind of wrestling background per se. He is a former basketball player from Nigeria, of course, as we know. But yeah, I believe that his style is going to be just very, simple. And I don't say that in a negative. Very simple, hard hitting, just about the power, one shot, done. That type of thing. That's the kind of thing we're going to see. But his presence is just crazy. It's mad. It's crazy. So shout out to Jordynne. So my star of the week only came because we're actually filming this a day later than we usually do.
Okay.
So this one actually came from what happened on Tuesday night. with so my star is the Pope, Elijah.
Oh yes, he won the TV championship.
Of course. So the Pope, Elijah Burke, has won the NWA television championship. The NWA television championship has a rich history with previous winners like guys like Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, you know what I mean? And most recently, we've seen Ricky Starks was the guy who won that after it was dormant for I think about 21 years. But now the Pope is the new TV champion, and not just that alone, but I don't know if you've seen it, but he did a little video message. I think he cut a promo in the ring, which I haven't seen yet myself, but he shared a video on his page, kind of thanking the fans, and it was very emotional, very, very emotional. And he was basically talking about how, you know, we know how good he is at what he does, both in the ring, on the mic, absolutely phenomenal character and guy, one of my favorite wrestlers over a long period of time. And he was basically talking about how he's wrestled for every big company that there is, apart from AEW, of course, which only started a year ago. And he's made progress, and he's getting, you know, all this good criticism from fans and from other people in the boardroom, the locker room, all of that kind of stuff. But when he reaches that top, he gets the rug pulled from underneath him, and he used those exact words. And you know, and he was just saying that, you know, the only one constant that he seems to have is the support of his fans, basically. And that resonated quite a lot. As I said, you know, I'm a massive fan of his and how he approaches both life and in the ring as well. But you know, it is a clear reminder of the same old thing that we were just talking about a lack of representation here and lack of representation here and there, and how some of our best people just get forgotten about. And as I said, I can say it 20 million times. For me, the Pope is just that guy who really should have been, you know, very much kind of where we put like a Shawn Michaels, even The Rock, you know what I mean, people like that, because that guy just has everything. He can talk on the mic for forever.
For days, yeah.
For days, and you won't get bored. He can go in the ring. He's a former boxing champion as well, amateur boxing champion, and all this kind of thing, and all these accolades that he had as an actual fighter as well as in the ring. And his character work is just phenomenal. The other thing that I want to push as well, because of the Pope, is he also works for very closely, I think, the head booker of the Florida independent promotion, Fighting Evolution Wrestling. I work very closely with them guys, and they're putting out a YouTube show at the end of this month, which will be a weekly show, so I'm just plugging that real quick as well. But yeah, man, so for me, the Pope is, you know, my star of the week.
No, it's a great pick, and I'm sure just because of everything you've mentioned and his character, he will probably be very instrumental in putting that belt back where, you know, it used to be for NWA as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So yeah, man. Shout out to Jordan. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his surname. I'll get it wrong. And Pope Elijah Burke. Guys, that is the end of our show. I believe it's a little bit longer than usual, but I'm sure you lot are glad to hear our voices for a little longer and see our faces on YouTube as well. So, as always, you can follow Mex, well, only on Twitter at the moment. I'm sure that the new Instagram page is going to come very soon as well.
Keep my name alive in these streets. You guys, please, I'll be back.
And the name is WrestleManiac UK, so search for that on Twitter, and surely soon enough on Instagram once again. And of course, if you're not already, then you should be listening to the show, but you can follow me on Instagram at Black Wrestling Alliance. Keep watching, keep listening, affinityextra.com. And guys, we will see you this time next week.